Okay. Okay. Distinguished colleagues, please let us examine the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, the second day of July 2024. Yes. Page 11, the second day of July 2024. Yes. Page 11. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. The Civil Senator Olare.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Kamaruddin Olaliloyewu. I represent Osunwell Senatorial District. I rise to move that the vote and proceeding of Tuesday, 2nd July 24, be adopted as a true reflection of what happened on that day. I so move, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Odende.
Thank you, Mr. President, my dear colleagues. My name is Emmanuel Memga Udende. I represent the very good people of Benue Northeast. I stand to second the motion that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 2nd July be adopted. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion for adoption of the votes and proceedings of 2nd July 2024 has been moved and seconded. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, Senator Neida Bernard Emmanuel celebrated his birthday over the weekend, precisely on the 29th of June. I won't put the year that he was born. We wish him a very belated happy birthday. On Monday, the first day of July, was the birthday of the senior Senator Kakashehu Lawan. On behalf of the 10th Senate, wish him many more years of happy life on earth. Distinguished colleagues, on the third day of July is the birthday of the Senate Minority Leader, the Civil Senator Abba Patrick Moro, our Minority Leader. Wish you fulfillment of all your heart desires and God's protection. Amen. So on behalf of the Senate, all the senators aforementioned will have long life, they'll have prosperity, they'll have joy, and many more years of service to our fatherland. In the name of Almighty God. Amen. Today, we are privileged to have with us the staff and students of Unity Montessori Nursery and Primary School, Kubwa in Abuja. Our dear children, they are here in the gallery to observe Senate proceedings. On behalf of the Senate, I want to wish you all very fruitful observations of the proceedings. May God bless and be with you all. Amen. You may be seated. Leader of the Senate.
Point of orders. Point of order.
Point of order, Senator Ndume. Senator Ndume, point of order. Oh, sorry. Do we have any petition? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, it's
Sorry.
after petition. Before point of order.
Yes, if there's any petition, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume, OFR. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I have a petition from my constituents in respect of one very tragic incident here in Abuja. The petition was written by Elum Wisdom's Chambers on behalf of Mrs. Grace Onyebuchi Ogochukwu Grace and Ayomna Okpala Oka Welfare Association, Abuja branch. Mr. President, this petition in respect of the murder of one late Onyebuchi Anene, a native of Omoramma village, Oka, in Oka South local government area of Anambra State. Just summarily, Mr. President, this petition is about a very healthy young man who, on close of work on the 22nd of May, on his way home in Kubwa, a motorcyclist ran into his car and they settled their differences and the motorcyclist went away happily because there was no injury. But surprisingly, some officers of the Special Intervention Squad of the FCT Police Command on patrol came around and apprehended the young man. And the man told them he had no problem with the cyclist, he has already gone. They said no. They started beating him with butts of gun and tear gas. From a small thing, this young man was brutalized and he went into coma. He was taken to Kubwa General Hospital. From there, he was not resuscitated. He was transferred to National Hospital, Abuja. The next day, he died by 10 a.m. So the family members and the association of his community here in Abuja decided to approach the Senate with this petition. That how can something that does not involve the police, something that has been amicably settled, these officers decided to arrest him, brutalize him, and killed him. And that's the way it ended. So they're asking the Senate to order the investigation of this gruesome murder by the officers involved. Their names were written, but I don't want to start reading them now. The ASP who led the team, his name is supplied, and we are seeking...
Give us more details, please.
I should give more details?
Yes.
Okay. So the story is that the young man was on his way, a married man.
If
with
the
family.
petition has the names of the perpetrators, go ahead.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Because we thought we had seen the end of police brutality with answers.
Thank you, Mr.
If the story you are telling the Senate is true,
yes,
then there's no need.
It's very true.
There's no need to hide anything that is in that paper.
Thank you, Mr. President. The members of the Special Intervention Squad of the FCT Police Command was led by one ASP, Adamu Buba, with other people under his command. And they assaulted this man. From the story I have briefly given you, the motorcyclist that hit this man had gone away happily. And they were on patrol, so they came and stopped and apprehended him. He told them that this matter has been amicably resolved. The motorcyclist sustained no injury, and they started beating him with gun butts, tear gas, and the man fell unconscious. If you see the picture, it's a gory picture.
This is which
yes,
Senator?
Mr. President, yes, sir.
So that we don't start the morning with tears in our eyes. You may proceed to lay the petition.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are seeking for justice for my constituents.
Is there any legal impediment?
No legal impediment. This thing happened only 22nd of May. and the next morning, 23rd of May, he died at the National Hospital, Abuja.
The Inspector General of Police has not stepped in to start investigation.
He has not done anything, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
The petition is referred to the Joint Committee of Police Affairs, Ethics, Code of Conduct, and Public Petition to revert to the Senate within the next 10 days. Yes, distinguished Senator Nduma, the Chief Whip.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, I want to come under Order 41 and 51, which most of us are familiar with, or all of us. It's a matter of urgent public importance. And 51. Do I need to read it or?
Read.
Okay. 41 says a matter of discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. 2, if the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate, which you did, the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/3 of all senators. The matter shall be stand the next legislative day. 3, a senator moving a motion under the combined Senate Order 41 and 51 should ensure that the copies of the motion are available for senators when approval to move the motion is given. And the copy of the motion is already in circulation. No more than one motion may be made at a time. And then 51 says, and I read also, that notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceedings for which notice is required except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present, which all I did. Mr. President, the motion is on the suicide attack in Gwoza, Borno State, and the urgency to stem the tide of this ugly menace that is resurfacing. With your permission, I can go on to present the motion.
Order 41, sub 2 says, if the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is granted by at least 1/5 of all senators, the matter shall stand over to the next legislative day.
No, I did 41 and 51, and you can read this next section too, which says that once it is granted, the motion should be made available, and I did. I gave you a copy, and the copy is supposed to be circulated for all the members. And that is the tradition, that once you combine 41...
The intent of the other paper, the intent of the provisions here, it actually is to the effect that the matter should stand over. And once the leave is granted, it will now come by way of written petition. But I believe that the Senate can always use Order 1B to regulate its activities. Is it the wish of the Senate that it be allowed to proceed with this very urgent matter of national importance? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So under Order 1B, the Senate has granted you permission to move it immediately. Otherwise, by the rule, you would have stood to the next legislative date. So you may proceed, Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. This motion, which I'm sure most of our colleagues are aware of, is the unfortunate incident that is the suicide attack in my hometown, Gwoza in Borno State, and the need to actually look at this issue that Nigerians are almost about forgetting and having a peace of mind. The Senate notes that on Saturday, 29 June 2024, brazen suicide bombers targeted a wedding ceremony, funeral, and hospital in a sporadic and coordinated attacks in Gwoza town of Borno State, which resulted in the unfortunate death of 32 innocent Nigerians so far, leaving scores of other victims wounded with varied degrees of injuries. Also notes that one of the incidents occurred near a busy motor park in Tasham Mararaba, Gwoza town, and the victims were mainly civilians returning from a wedding ceremony where the assailant was identified to be a young lady in her early 20s. Further notes that these attacks have raised significant concern about the security situation in the region, which has been a flashpoint of terrorist attacks over the years. And this calls for concerted and coordinated efforts of the security agencies to address the state of insecurity in Borno State and other parts of the country experiencing similar situations. Aware that in today's world, asymmetric warfare, whereby its strategy and tactics differ significantly from the normal conventional war, the approach by our security agencies should be significant, scientifically and technologically based with the use of modern software and facilities to fight the menace. Accordingly, observe a minute silence in honor of those innocent Nigerians who lost their precious lives from this unfortunate incident. 2, urge the National Emergency Management Agency to intensify efforts by providing relief materials to the victims of the attack. And 3, to urge the federal government to direct the security agencies in the country to deploy the use of modern technology in the fight against insurgency and to make concerted efforts in securing the hotspots inhibited by the insurgents, namely the Lake Chad region, 2, the Sambisa forest, and 3, the Mandara Mountains, respectively. Mr. President, these 3 spots are so far now the only black spot of where the insurgents are inhibiting in Borno State. I'm very sure if these 3 black spots are cleared, the end of terrorism in Borno State will definitely be achieved. Finally, Mr. President, I cannot conclude without appreciating the avalanche of condolences, sympathies, calls that I received. And therefore, when I went home, my people asked me to thank you very much for the concern shown, especially Mr. President, who personally got in touch with me to sympathize on these incidents, and also directed the Vice President to immediately go to Gwoza, where he individually went to see the victims that were evacuated to Maiduguri for treatment. And also your humble self, when the incidents happened, in the night when I informed you, you called me and also supported me by even offering to get me to Maiduguri by whatever means. The DSP were together at ECOWAS Parliament, and he too showed concern. All my colleagues, virtually all my colleagues, called me individually and in group. The Northern Senators Forum, the Southern Senators Forum, other individuals showed sympathy and concerted condemnation of this act. I believe that with this display of solidarity, if the Nigerian army is provided with the necessary tools and equipment, And I must also mention here, this time around, the Nigerian Army and other security forces responded promptly and gallantly. In fact, one soldier lost his life and a civilian JTF when they confronted the fifth suicide bomber that detonated the bomb and killed the three of them there. One was a soldier. And mostly, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, that soldier that sacrificed his life is from the south. It is very, I have to mention this because that is the greatest sacrifice one can make. And in fact, that was what led to getting that incident immediately to an end, because they succeeded in arresting one of or the last suicide bomber. She's now under interrogation. I must mention here again that these people are already, indoctrinated. All of them their hairs were braided, and they had this Nelly, and they are confident that they are going to heaven if they detonate and kill the people. In fact, the last woman that was arrested, up to now, the interrogation has not brought out so much because she's still insisting that she wants to go to heaven, and that is by killing people and detonating the bomb. So, Mr. President, as I said, the black spots are three. What needs to be done can be achieved if the Nigerian Army are given specific instruction and attention and provided with what they need, particularly drones and other technologically driven gadgets, in order to get rid of these three black spots. Once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and once also thank my distinguished colleagues for the support, sympathy that I have been pouring in since the incident happened. I so move.
Distinguished Senator Wamako.
Right? Okay. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, Aliyu M. Wamako are my names, Dr. Nos. I tend to second the motion ably moved by Senator Aliyu Ndume on this very ugly incident that happened in Gwoza in the last few days. Mr. President, such happenings today have become part of our daily life. Either in Maiduguri, in Sokoto, in Zamfara, in Kaduna, in Niger, in Yobe, and all over the country as well. So in seconding this motion, Mr. President, I'm caught in by the last sad prayer of Aliyu Ndume. And we should urge the federal government to the security agencies in the country to deploy the use of modern technology in the fight against insurgency, make a concerted effort in securing the hotspot insurgent in Borno and elsewhere in the country. Spreading all over the country, these hotspots are known. There must be a concerted effort to identify those spots and take decisive action against these callous people. To this end, Mr. President, I again scan and support this motion very humbly and decisively. Thank you.
The distinguished Senator Mongoro.
Distinguished President of the Senate, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. While supporting in total the passage of this motion by the Senate, I adopt all the submissions and the prayers contained there in the motion as mine, and want to add further that the resurgence of suicide bombings in Borno State, having consigned it to the dustbin of history in the last 5 or 6 years, is very, very unfortunate and calls for concern. I can vividly recall that at a point in time in Borno State, weddings are done not in group, funerals are conducted not in group, all social activities are conducted individually because of the avalanche of suicide bombings. But because of the zeal, determination, and enthusiasm displayed by the Nigerian military in the fight against insurgency, Boko Haram was decapitated, and their ability to conduct their heinous activities was equally decapitated. But with the resurgence of this unfortunate scenario in Gwoza, as I said earlier, calls for concern, and there is need for all arms to be on deck with a view to curbing or nipping in the bud this ugly scenario so that it doesn't separate to other parts of Borno State and indeed other parts of the country. And the only panacea as captured in the prayer is the deployment of technology to nip this ugly scenario in the vote. So I wholeheartedly support this motion in total. Thank you.
It's a motion that everybody would like to say something on. But I hope it will not really depart from the facts of the case and the sadness that has engulfed the nation as a result of this heinous crime. But maybe we can take one or two more, then we go into the prayers. The senior Senator Ahmed Lawan.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. Ahmed Lawan, I represent Yobe North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I join my colleagues who spoke earlier to condole and commiserate with our brother, colleague, and friend, Senator Ahmed Alindume, the Senatorial District, and government and people of Borno State. Mr. President, I want to refer particularly to the last prayer, the third prayer. The third prayer is about the deployment of technology. But before then, one question we should ask ourselves as a parliament: is there anything that is worthy of significant investments by the Nigerian government today, other than the security of the people of Nigeria? Is there? There isn't, is the question. Because any other thing that we wish for ourselves, that we hope and pray for our country, revolves around the security of the people and their property. I will therefore urge us and the executive arm of government to prioritize how we invest. Mr. President, I support construction of roads. But today, what Nigeria needs is to secure their lives. So we should take it as a priority that when we appropriate, henceforth, real investment must be made in the armed forces and other security agencies. Mr. President, last month, I attended an exhibition of new technologies for defense across the world in Paris. And today, the drones, particularly, can be sufficiently and significantly utilized to help our armed forces fight not only in the Northeast against insurgents, but also the banditry in the Northwest, North Central, and other criminal tendencies in the southern part of the country. So I believe that we should prioritize providing funds for our armed forces to have the right kind of technology that they need. I will also really commend the armed forces that we have, because they still try to do much with the little that they get from us. But I believe the time has come that we look at spending more to secure our people than providing maybe for roads and some other investments that can easily be positively really influenced by providing security in the country. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the privilege.
The senior Senator Jimo Ibrahim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senate President and my very distinguished colleagues. It's a sad day and it's a period of moment of reflection because we are talking about insecurity. If I had my way, I would have suggested that all proceedings be suspended today in honor of the innocent Nigerians that were killed by these incredible acts of embarrassment caused in Borno. As a matter of fact, Mr. Senate President, just recalling Thomas Hobbes here, is looking day and day that life of man is short, brutal, and terribly embarrassing if the Leviathan refuses to respond to the insecurity going on day by day, particularly in Nigeria. And this can be very, very dangerous. Living with insecurity is gradually becoming the only way to understand security. And we cannot allow this trend to continue because of the danger that is portrayed. I don't want to take much of your time, but I will say clearly, it costs nothing for the intelligent army to get devices in their phone to know where these notorious criminals live. As I'm here, I check my phone regularly, and I know the number of guns that are very close to me here. This is just less than 1,000 installation. Within us now, there are over 277 guns around here. And just because an armory is close to this place. So what am I saying? We can use technology, just like distinguished Senator Odime have said, to deploy to these soldiers, rather using hands and all this unknown strategy.
Prof,
Yes, sir.
You know you have a PhD in warfare.
Yes.
Do you know out of the 277 guns around you here now?
Yes, around the National Assembly.
Do you know how many of them have bullets inside?
Mr. Senate President, we can actually do a probability. If you have 277 guns close to you within a radius of 1 kilometer, the probability that half of them have gone is 1. And that is dangerous. And we need to find out the source of those guns. But because I can locate that armory close to us and very close to Villa, then I understand we are safe. I want to say very clearly that the military should stop using unconventional strategy to fight insurgency in Nigeria. There's a distinction between conventional strategy and unconventional strategy. We need to go to unconventional strategy to fight unconventional war. Boko Haram is a conventional war. It's not a conventional war. We're all aware of what happened in Kenya. We cannot close our eyes. We need to wake up. So I finally suggest to you, Mr. Senate President, and my distinguished colleagues, that this Senate, under your leadership, sir, must have a closed door meeting for one day, and let's use that the whole day to discuss security matters. Our life is very important. The life of man cannot be said to be short, brutish, and unproductive if we do nothing about insecurity. Living with insecurity cannot be the only way to understand security. We shouldn't get to that. Once again, distinguished Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I thank you. Like I said, to me, it's a sad day. I don't think we can eat. We could actually close proceedings today in honor of those people. How can you be going for a wedding and you don't even know what happened? Somebody just put bomb and attack the whole convoy, and people have started dying. It's sad, it's painful, it's uncalled for, it's unacceptable, and it's rejected in the totality of its formulation. Eliminate. Thank you, Mr. Senate President.
Distinguished Senator Yaradua.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I'm Abdulaziz Musa Yaradua, representing the people of Kasana Central. I want to align myself with all those that spoke on this motion and to also condole our brother, distinguished Senator Ndume, for this unfortunate incident. Mr. President, I want to also align myself with the issue of technology and the need for us to prioritize security. It is very important to understand that the armed forces and the security agencies are doing their best, and we must commend them for what they are doing. However, it's important for us as a parliament, as mentioned by distinguished Senate President Emeritus, on the need to see how we can ensure that we provide all that is required for the armed forces and the security agencies to enable them fight this battle. What is important now is for the security agencies to go back to their security procedures so that this issue of suicide bombing does not spread, especially to the Northwest. Because if the bandits in the Northwest now adopt this strategy, it is going to be more dangerous. As I'm talking to you, Mr. President, a lecturer was killed yesterday at the Federal University, Dusama. His children and others within the vicinity, about 5 or 6 of them have been abducted and are with these bandits. So it is important that the armed forces and the security agencies go back to the security procedures that have assisted in nipping in the bud the suicide bombing that has been consigned to the dustbin before. So I want to thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity and distinguished colleagues.
Distinguished Senator Neda, you may wish to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Neda Emerson is my name, representing Edo South Senatorial District. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. President. This incident is a it's an awful one for 2 reasons. One, it happened on my birthday, June 29th, and that is so unfortunate. And secondly, in a city where I was trained, where I attended the university, and this is one incident too many. For me, we have had so many closed-door meetings on security. It seems to me that we seem to be doing one thing over and over again. What baffles me and continues to baffle me is that we wait until incidents like this happen before we take the fight to them. When it seems to be quiet, that is when I think that the security should get busy to go after these insurgents. It appears that our security networks either is not spread wide enough or the intelligence is failing. Otherwise, we should take this fight to them. It is not when they attack us. We should look for them wherever they are. They don't live, they are not spirits. These are human beings as well. And I think that the security agencies should sit tight with their intelligence and get busy. And we don't have to wait until they attack us before we respond. We should always look for them wherever they are. I don't want to make any example. Something happened like this in Egypt, in Israel, and we know what happened. The whole country went ahead to look for the last man that did it. They didn't wait until it happens again. So we should begin to take this security very seriously because the life of a Nigerian is an important life to all of us. And we owe it a duty to safeguard not just properties, but lives of Nigerians. So, Mr. President, in addition to the prayers, we urge that the security network, the intelligence should be strengthened and they should go after these insurgents even when they have not attacked us so that we can actually decimate them. This issue of fire brigade response is not going to solve our problem. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Karimi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Karimi Sunday Steve. I represent the people of Kogi West. Mr. President, much has been said about the ugly situation and the need for us to bring in technology to solve some of the problems. But I want to also say something, sir, that having good roads will also, in some cases, solve security problems. That, especially where we have bad roads, it encourages kidnappers to do their operation easily. When we have good roads, it will also help in most part of the country, especially in my senatorial district. If we have good roads, it will solve most of the kidnapping problems we have in our area. So we have to weigh both sides, invest in security, invest in good road, and that will help the security situation that we have in our country. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished Senator Ned Nwoko.
Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. The issue of violence in Nigeria is not a new one. And over again, we seem to forget that all these disgruntled elements, groups, in various parts of the world, various parts of Nigeria, from east to west, have their reasons for doing what they are doing. Mr. President, I think time has come for us to begin to address the fundamental reasons why people are disgruntled, why people are unhappy, why people are willing to kill themselves. You can just imagine a lady who is probably a mother with children deciding to end her own life. What will make a woman to do that? We should talk less now about the military and arming the military. We've been doing that for years, and it has not changed anything. What we must do at this point is to convene this Senate, this National Assembly must convene some conference and invite all the leaders, traditional rulers, local government chairmen, political leaders, all the stakeholders, and get them together. And we must begin to dialogue. We must begin to know why they are killing each other. Why? Because the fact remains that, yes, we mobilize soldiers, they go and kill them, and they in turn will plan, maybe it could take them another 6 months to remobilize and come and also kill our soldiers and our men. So I think time has come for us to convene a conference of sorts that is anchored by National Assembly to begin to find out some permanent solutions to all these killings. It just one too many. And I'm sure my colleagues here will agree with me that this is the best way forward. It's not about the millions or billions that's been spent in arming the military, because the military are also being killed. We are not, as Jimo Ibrahim said, Senator Jimo Ibrahim, this is not conventional warfare. They have ideas. The ideas are based on ideologies, and you can't kill it with bullets. So time has come for us to take the leadership of this National Assembly and deal with these issues once and for all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Ome.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to say that we can deploy soldiers, we can deploy technology, we can do all these things, but if we cannot train the mind, these things will continue to happen. Suicide bombing can only be perpetrated by a mind that is not developed. When I listened to Senator Alain Dume, he said that one of the purveyors of the bomb was asked why she was doing this, and she said that she was told that she would go to heaven. A trained mind will ask the person sending her on the mission, why are you not carrying out this mission so that you go to heaven? I therefore think that instead of thinking about how to use technology and the soldiers to fight terrorists, we should deploy education. If we educate young people, we'll be in a position to keep them out of some of these things that embarrass us. In my condolence message to the people of Borno State, in our platform, Senator's platform, I called for reorientation of our youths by our religious leaders. Young girls that were hired to go and commit this act with a promise that they will go to heaven. If they were educated, they will not embark on that mission. This Borno State we are talking about have so many educated people. I do not want to accept that educating our young people in that belt will be difficult. I understand that Boko Haram is no to Western education. That's the name, the meaning of Boko Haram. But that area has produced so many brilliant minds, senior advocates of Nigeria. Even Senator Tahir Mongono here is a brilliant legal mind, and he hails from that state. The government should do the right thing. If we invest on education, the governor should take education as a priority so that no matter how difficult it is to impact education on our young people, they should go all the hog to ensure that education is provided to our young people coming up so that this thing can be turned from having minds that are liberated through superstition, because nobody can believe this, that when you kill another person, you go to see God. So I am saying that even at the prayers in the motion I have looked at, yes, we are talking about fighting those who will go, mobilizing people who will go and get people and stop this. These are young girls, teenagers have been brainwashed to go and carry bomb and embrace people and kill people and go to heaven. So this is the root of the problem. We have to ensure that the government is directed and urged to go and provide education to our young people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Distinguished Senator Ekong Samson, final.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Ekong Samson. I speak for Akwa Ibom South. Let me readily convey the very deep sympathies of Akwa Ibom South to the people of Borno State over this tragedy. This has signposted a resurgence in some measure. We were beginning to heave some sigh of relief. But what took place in Borno State has jolted us, has jolted our sensibilities that the bad times are back. My heart bleeds for that section of Nigeria. But let me make it very clear that this is not just a tragedy for Borno State, it is a tragedy for Nigeria. It is a tragedy for Akwa Ibom, it is a tragedy for Ukana, it is a tragedy for Lagos State. Because when an incident as tragic as this unfolds in one part of the country, it reverberates, it affects the other parts of the country. A lot has been said about the need to redirect our minds, especially the minds of our youth, the need for technology. But let me add that one trajectory that we must always be alive to is that security is everybody's concern. We must not leave this important assignment only to the government. Everybody must be involved. It is painful that these youths are being brainwashed. Some of them that when they undertake this very risky enterprise, they will end up in heaven. Some are being told that they will meet virgins in heaven. Some of them are being told, the men, the youth among them, that they will meet some in heaven, some on letter notes, as magnetic as Natasha as it were. So let me join our colleagues to underscore the type of opinion that we need to do more for our security. Our security agencies have worked very hard. They are doing very well. But we must not leave these assignments only to them. We need to do more to own up our security architecture, knowing that this is a collective concern. We need to educate our young minds more. We need to rededicate ourselves that we cannot go back to the very dark past. So on behalf of Akwa Ibom South, we convey our very deep sympathies to the people of Borno State and challenge Nigerians to re-educate ourselves and to be alive to the very serious challenges that security poses in this country. Thank you.
This is Senator Idiad on behalf of women.
The Senate President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Idiat Oluranti Adebide. I represent the good people of Lagos West. Well, my sincere condolences to the people of Gwoza and the entire Borno State. It is most unfortunate that we are back on this part again, this part of sadness, of sorrow, of mourning. We pray that God in His mercy will grant those who died peace, and also the injured, we pray that they also get back in good time. Sir, I want to say that it's quite unfortunate that we are back, but I recall that before the bombing subsided, they discovered a bombing manufacturing company, or sort of, in Borno State then. And the military were able to take over that particular uh, company or site. I want to say for them to come back at this rate, it means somehow that company or that manufacturing site is back again within them in Borno State. And I wish that members of the community, members of the society, to pay attention to what is happening around them. For them to be able to discover this site again, it is the responsibility of everybody in Borno State. That is one thing I would like all of us to take note of. And secondly, sir, advocacy, awareness, and provision of chiefs to members of the community. Maybe we have relaxed a bit as to the ones that we were doing earlier. I knew that we have pamphlets, we have things that they were distributing, even for those of us who are not even from that region. So I think the government should please not relax, not assume that everybody is aware of what is going on. They should begin the advocacy, create awareness, and give the people tips what they should look out for. If you see a suicide bomber, what are the things that will be those things that you should watch out for? That is very important. That it must be shared not only amongst themselves on their radio, on their TV. This is something they must spread, and for people to be aware of and be able to tackle it in the bud. And lastly, sir, for Sambisa, Marada Mountain, and all other sites that have been identified, this is a special assignment also for our committee of defense here, and our committee, all of the military, maybe Navy, Army, all of them to please pass this message to the top hierarchy of the military. For them, not that they don't know, I know they are aware that this site is there, but can we take concrete steps to ensure that we pay particular attention to this so that we can dislodge those who are coming to harm our people? Yes, that is something that we must do. And all of us, members of this committee, must take it as a responsibility to continue to liaise with top military authority that something must be done about this. Distinguished member, we cannot continue to have suicide bombing amongst us. This is something that not only that the Senate have in the past assigned quite a number of amount of money to. How this is spent, we must look into it. Not only how it is spent, we must also see that they are able to justify what this money that we have budgeted for the military, how much they've spent, and how much they are now intending or they wish to set aside for the technology. It is important that we must do it as a body, as a Senate. Thank you. I so submit.
Thank you so much, and please, let us try our best to note that the prayers are far more important. Let us take actions. Let us go into the prayers. Deputy Senate President, DSP, this is your area.
Yes.
In case you have observation or advice, then we go straight into the prayers so that we can move on to other items. The unfortunate incident has happened, and all the solutions are either contained in this paper presented by the Chief Whip or from the submissions of our colleagues. So we should note them and then go into the prayers one by one. Deputy Senate President, please end the debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Barrow Jibrin is my name, Kano North. Mr. President, permit me to extend my condolences to the families of those who died through the heinous act committed by suicide bombers that detonated bombs in several places in Gwoza area of Borno State. Mr. President, this is a desperate action by terrorists who do not mean well for our country. The fact is this. The fact is that they are so desperate
And it clearly shows that they've been defeated because they no longer have the capacity to use weapons to fight our military. So they now decided to use suicide bombers to kill and maim our people. This is sad. This is very sad. I want to commend men in uniform, men and women in uniform who have been doing very well to protect us. It shows that the work they are doing is yielding results because they feel, the terrorists, that they can no longer fight them. And that's why they've resorted to these acts of using suicide bombers. What I want to add here is that we call on them not to rest on their oars. We call on them to put more grease onto their elbows, to continue to fight until these people can no longer even use the suicide bombers. I also want to call on Mr. President to continue what he's doing. I know what he's doing. I know he's meeting every day, he's working, having sleepless night to show that, to make sure that this country becomes safe from terrorists and bandits. And it clearly, what happened in Gwoza last week demonstrates that the entire thing that's been done by Mr. President and his team is losing result because these people feel that they can no longer fight using weapons. So what we need to do is to find a way to make sure that they cannot use the suicide bombers any longer, using devices that can detect those that have been are ready to kill themselves in order to kill others, to detect them so that they can no longer use suicide bombers to kill and maim our people. I commend Senator Ndime for bringing forward this motion, and I also commend all those who contributed in this in the debate in this motion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I don't know whether the minority leader has something to add that is different from others. You have the floor.
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, my distinguished colleagues, some of the things that we have said here, Mr. President, are for purposes of emphasis. And when critical matters like this come, we have one thing to say or the other. And sometimes we say, without sounding like a broken record, we want to make certain contributions. So, Mr. President, actually, I've been meaning to make a contribution on this matter because it's a security matter. And if you note where I come from, we have had issues of security challenges and the death of people. And Mr. President, my concern here is the fact that everything that we keep talking about security here is in reaction to attacks on communities. It's in reaction to death of people. Mr. President, I think we must change the narrative and the trajectory from which we approach the issue of security. Let me therefore extend my very heartfelt condolences to the people of Borno State, and in particular, the people of Gwoza. Those of us who have followed the insecurity situation in the Northeast, particularly in Borno State, know that Gwoza has been at the receiving end of attacks by Boko Haram insurgents. And so, Mr. President, if we have been talking about insecurity, government out, government in, week out, week in, month in, month out, year in, year out, and we are still confronted with the menace of frequent attacks on our communities and the killing of vulnerable, defenseless civilians, then, Mr. President, we want to ask ourselves the salient questions and then appeal to government to take the bull by the horn and be the government that will solve the problem of insecurity in Nigeria. Mr. President, I don't want to believe that our military that have been drafted into this war do not know what to do. Be it a symmetric war or a conventional war, they are all mere semantics. The fact is that it's a war. And soldiers are trained to fight wars, whether it is asymmetric or conventional. And I don't want to think that appealing to the soldiers to deploy technology is the answer to the question, because they are trained to identify wars and to deploy appropriate mechanisms to solving the problems of war. And so, Mr. President, I think we want to challenge the Nigerian military. We cannot continue talking about insecurity, particularly the Northeast, particularly Gwoza, like I said, that has had a receiving end of this insurgency. So let's think that for once, we make a very passionate appeal to this government. Let this government be the government that will end insecurity in Nigeria. I still submit, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, even if we leave this floor between now and the next 2-3 hours, people will keep repeating themselves. It's heinous crime, very sad incident, horrific as it is, a resurgence of a very serious angle to banditry and then Boko Haram. And then, of course, our sympathies and commiserations go to the good people of Borno State and Gwoza in particular, and distinguished Chief Whip. So the Chief Whip of the Senate, let me thank you for bringing this up. When that incident happened, many Nigerians were not able to sleep well. And because insecurity in any part of the nation is insecurity everywhere. So I believe together you heard your colleagues, the actions that took place are very condemnable. But then something that you brought up, which was important, is that it is not that the security agencies did not react, that one of them even paid the supreme sacrifice. And then also they were able to apprehend the last suicide bomber, who is now providing insights into the plans that they have, and then insisting that she should be allowed to go and detonate the bomb for her to go to heaven. So it's both psychological, mental, as well as physical. So the police cannot be everywhere. The federal government cannot enter every traditional gathering in the country and every wedding. But at least we have brought up something very serious here, that we should also employ a lot of technology. The technology, you don't need to be physically there. We can monitor from miles away to know when there is likely going to be an infraction in security. And also, what happened there could also be described as failure of intelligence, because we have so many suicide bombers gathering together. It means we've not penetrated their camps. Otherwise, we would have known that they were going to strike. So preventive security must also be emphasized. So I thank all my colleagues for their contributions, and I pray that let us go into the prayers, and then from there we can proceed solutions that could help us to stem the tide of this current resurgence. Thank you, the Chief Whip, and please accept my personal condolence on the losses. Prayer 1, observe a minute silence in honor of those innocent Nigerians who lost their lives from these unfortunate bombings. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, urge the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to intensify efforts by providing relief materials to the victims of the various attacks aforementioned. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, urge the federal government of Nigeria to direct the security agencies in the country to deploy the use of modern technology in this fight against insurgency and banditry, to make concerted efforts in securing the hotspots inhabited by the insurgents, clearly named Lake Chad region, Sambisa Forest, and Mandara Mountains. Those in support of prayer,
Amendments.
Yeah? Somebody said something?
Yes, amendment to prayer 3. Sir.
Amendment or additional prayer? Because the prayer 3 seems very straightforward. You can bring additional prayer. Prayer 3 says we should urge the federal government of Nigeria to direct the security agencies to deploy the use of modern technology in the fight against insurgency, banditry, and this Boko Haram. And then another aspect of prayer 3 is that they should also make concerted efforts to secure the hotspots inhabited by the insurgents, which are known, such as Lake Chad region, Sambisa Forest, and Mandara Mountains. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes. Who wanted to do additional prayer? Senator Adams Oshimole, additional prayer. Thank you
very much. My additional prayer is that the Senate Committee on Army and Air Force should ensure that we do not only provide more money to the armed forces, that we guide jealously what they use that money to procure. Because under the supervision and oversight of this National Assembly, previous service chiefs diverted money to build universities in their various communities. Those are the kind of resources that should have been used to procure modern technology. And to think that money was being diverted to non-essentials. And as we speak, those institutions are not teaching anything about security. They are just another glorified university. I think that this House, having the power to appropriate, we should focus strictly on the items that the Army and the Air Force and other security agencies are going to spend the money to do. Otherwise, everybody knows we need modern technology. This House, under your leadership, we have provided supplementary appropriation to the armed forces. Throwing money at a problem will solve it. We must assist them to redirect their procurement policies to focus on this technology. Otherwise, we can decline to approve appropriation if the details are not such that those managing the system will use the money strictly in a manner that we do justice to our collective feeling about redirecting and moving more and more towards technology. This is my additional prayer, Mr. President. It can be worded more elegantly, but I just believe that we need to tie the hands of the procurement people to procure more and spend more in those areas that the armed forces' competence will be better enhanced.
The only problem with the additional prayer is the allegation that previous service chiefs diverted money to build universities. Did they build personal universities or public universities?
Mr. President, they build public universities. And I believe that if half of those money was used to strengthen NDA in terms of competence of the men, and the rest used to procure modern technology for the armed forces, the armed forces would have been far more competent. Somebody talk about how Israel reacted. I'm not sure it's something I want to debate, but they reacted with technology, with men and women well trained, not creating mushroom educational institutions. Each service chief, they started them in their own villages. That did not coincide with the priorities of the armed forces. Just last year when we were doing the supplementary budget, we saw that the Navy even appropriate money to buy a yacht. That is why the oversight responsibility of this Senate is extremely important, to prevent the armed forces to prioritize in a manner that coincides with what we think the Nigerian Army should be doing. Thank you, sir.
Any seconder to the additional prayer? Yes, Senator Neda.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Senator Neda Emaswa, Edo South, Senatorial District, I stand to second the additional prayers ably moved by Senator Aliu, Adams, Eric, Oshimale. I so second.
Yes, Senator Kawu, Senator Naida, Senator Kao wants you to reiterate the prayer that you are seconding. What is the prayer?
The prayer that the money appropriated to the military should be directed to the core values, to the core mandates, which is to protection and procurement of materials and instruments that will aid them in securing our country rather than building universities or procuring yachts.
Okay, noted. So, distinguished colleagues, the additional prayer proposed by distinguished Senator Adams Oshimole is to the effect that we should mandate our Senate committees on defense, Navy, Air Force, Army, and other related security agencies to oversight all appropriations to the armed forces to avoid diversion of such monies from procurement of necessary tools to fight insurgents into unnecessary construction of universities in various domains of the armed forces chiefs. This prayer has been seconded. Those in support of the prayer say aye. Those against say nay. Let me take it again. The prayer is that all the Senate committees on defense, Navy, Air Force, and Army should immediately oversight and monitor that all appropriations made by this hallowed chamber are not diverted by the service chiefs to construction of universities in their communities, as happened in the past, but rather injected into the purchase of weaponry and technological equipment meant to fight insurgencies. This prayer has been seconded. Those in support of this additional prayer say aye, and those against say nay. Okay. The nays have it. Yes, there's a
Additional prayers.
Mr. President, we want to add one additional prayer to this, and that is the federal government should seek collaboration with private security contractors on the hotspot of Sambisa, Mandara Mountain, and Chad region. Sumaila. Again.
Your additional prayer.
Yeah. Mr. President, we should urge the federal government to seek collaboration with private security contractors on the hotspot of Sambisa, Mandara, and the Chad region.
Any seconder? Any seconder that we should urge the federal government to seek collaboration with private security agencies on these hotspots? Any seconder?
Mr. President, I write to second the motion.
Okay. Well, the Senate leader has bailed out the deputy leader and seconded the motion.
Counter motion.
The federal government should go ahead. So,
counter motion.
Those in support of the prayer are seconded say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, may we rise to observe a minute silence in honor of the departed souls.
Additional prayer.
May the souls of all those who lost their lives in the unfortunate sporadic bombings in Gwoza in Borno State rest in perfect peace.
Information.
Yes, the Zoom Senator, go to the point of order.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm coming on order 41 and order 51. Do I read? Mr. President, like I said, I want to come on order 41 and 51. Do I read? The matter for discussion, yes, Dean. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. If the claim is allowed by the President of the Senate and the leave of the Senate is given by at least 1/5 of all the senators, the matter shall stand over till the next legislative day. A senator moving a motion under combined orders 41 and 51 shall ensure that copies of the motion are available for all senators when approval to move the motion is granted. The copies are available, Mr. President. Not more than one such motion can be taken a day. Then 51. 51 says, Mr. President, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present.
You want to give us the summary of what it is all about?
Yeah, Mr. President, I want to move motion on the very laudable project of Mr. President named Legacy Hub, renewed Legacy Hub road infrastructure projects which are being executed by the Federal Ministry of Works. And I want to commend Mr. President and also make a small plea on behalf of some parts of this country.
Okay, distinguished colleagues, Senator Goje made me earlier that he has a motion to urge the President and the Executive to include some areas of the Northeast in the renewed hope projects of Mr. President. And he has come under Order 41 and 52 and Order 51. So is it the view of the Senate that he be allowed to present this motion on the next legislative date? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So you'll present it on the next legislative date.
By 51, Mr. President, 51 has taken care of it. Or the 51...
We've taken care of...
no, 51.
We cannot do more than one in a day.
Okay.
Yes. Senator Azukwa, what is it?
I'd like to come under Order 41 and 51. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claims unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Order 51. Notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding
for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, Mr. President, urgent need to investigate the continued importation of hazardous petroleum products and dumping of substandard diesel into Nigeria.
Distinguished colleagues, this for me is a very important motion. However, we've already taken one of the motions already. So is it the view of the Senate that this be referred to the next legislative date?
Mr. President, under 41 subsection 4, not more than one such motion may be made at the same sitting. May being the key word, Mr. President.
Under 41.
Subsection 4.
Then in that case, we have to revisit Senator Goje's motion if you want to do more than one in a day. It's at the discretion of the Senate.
Yes,
so,
Your Excellency.
In that case, you have to sit down and let Senator Gwoza, let me ask the Senate if they want to take that of Senator Gwoza, because you are coming under the same orders. The Senator Gwoza, the order 51 is talking about May. Is it the view of the Senate that because of the urgencies involved in all these motions, our colleagues, we indulge our colleagues to take more than one matter of urgent national importance for today, in line with our Rule 1B? Those in support say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Gwoza, you proceed before Asukwa.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the chance at long last. The Senate notes the public service announcement.
Your mic. No, take it close to yourself. Okay.
The Senate notes the public service announcement made via various print media and social media platforms by the Federal Ministry of Works, inviting stakeholders to participate in public engagements regarding the renewed hope legacy road infrastructure projects across the country. Also note that these landmark projects, which are made up of the Sokoto-Badagry Superhighway connecting Sokoto Northwest to Badagry Southwest, Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway South-South, Calabar-Ebonyi, Benue, Kogi, Nasarawa, Abuja Superhighway, Southeast and North Central, respectively, were designed in line with the current administration's commitment towards actualizing the vision of making Nigeria the largest economy in Africa. However, Mr. President, Northeast is the only zone not included in this very laudable project. Further notes that this bold initiative is part of the renewed hope development agenda of Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, GSFR, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which upon completion will undoubtedly interconnect the country and bring about unprecedented socio-economic growth as well as foster national unity and integration. Aware that the legacy projects are shown on the various maps being published in the various papers designed by the Federal Ministry of Works, excluded the entire Northeast geopolitical zone from the whole equation, and this has stimulated unprecedented concerns and agitations from the region in view of the strategic roles these projects will play in this country. Hence, the need to include the Northeast Zone in this project. Also aware that the non-inclusion of the Northeast in the projects, which includes Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, Taraba, and Yobe, has raised myriad of concerns about unequal development and potential marginalization of the region, which will further worsen the infrastructural challenges of the region. Concerned that the security situation of the region, incidentally, one of which has just been discussed by the Senate, will be further excavated due to lack of adequate road infrastructure network, which make it to be susceptible and exposed to all manner of security challenges, ranging from insurgency, banditry, among others. Also concerned that the non-inclusion of the region will not augur well for the socio-economic development of this country, as well as the economic viability and opportunities that would abound in the region, which will not be tapped to its maximum benefits for Nigeria. Accordingly resolves: 1. Commend Senator Bola Tinubu, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for this great developmental stride in the quest to make Nigeria the biggest economy in Africa. 2. Urge the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Works to further expand the renewed Hope Legacy Road infrastructure projects to include the Calabar, Makadi, Jalingo, Yola, Maiduguri Highway, which will integrate the Northeast into the legacy infrastructure road projects for Nigeria. Thank you, Mr. President. God bless us all.
Distinguished Senator Plank.
President of the Senate, my colleagues, I am Senator Dicket Plank, Senator representing Plateau Central. Mr. President of the Senate, I rise to second the motion raised by Senator Gwoza, and I rise to support it because yesterday I presented the same motion, almost the same, shifted to today. And I see the two motions aligning. And I believe that this motion does not just rest with the Northeast alone, because distinguished colleagues, sometimes in 2018, the road from Akwanga to Jos to Gombe to Adamawa was approved by the Federal Executive Council for construction. Up to date, some survey was done, and up to date, nothing is done on it. And I feel strongly that the desire of Mr. President to bring economy to the country by way of great road infrastructure, the Northeast and part of Net Central from Akwanga, where to Jos to Gombe, which is the outlet to the federal capital and inlet to the federal capital for the Northeast, and also people from the Northeast going from the Northeast and Central going to the southern part of this country. I believe that with this huge dream of having the Lagos-Sokoto road, which would mean well for our country, and then the Lagos-Calabar Highway Coastland Road, and again the Calabar to Abuja via part of North Central, it will not be complete if the entire people of Northeast and Plateau particularly do not have a means of getting to the federal capital. So if in the good dream of Mr. President, if there is a holistic approach on it, it will help us in no small measure by improving the economy of the entire Northeast and part of North Central. I rise to second this in its totality, and I believe that all of us will reason with the desire of Mr. President to bring more road construction in this country, but including North Central and Northeastern part of this country. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to second this motion, and I collapse my own motion to this motion, sir. Thank you very much.
Honestly, the patriotic zeal you have exhibited in collapsing your motion, you can off your mic, into the motion by Senator Gwoza is noted and appreciated by the Senate because it will save us time, so we go into other issues. But because of this additional prayer of collapsing your motion into this other motion, while seconding it, there will also be need for the collapse situation to be seconded. So let me call on Senator Lalong to second the collapse situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished senators, I am Samuel Lalong representing the good people of Plateau South. Mr. President, I also stand to support this motion. The first one by distinguished Senator Gwoza and the collapse one by my colleague, distinguished Senator Dicket Plank. I have a few explanations because we are concentrating on coastal road. Sir, you have been to Plateau, you have been to Bauchi. 8 of these states, there is no way they can get to Abuja without passing through Akwanga, Jos Road. Each time you fly good roads, you come to that side, you will regret that you are coming to Abuja or going out of Abuja. While we are very anxious about the coastal road, the low-hanging fruit is to also start the Akwanga Jos to Gombe. It takes somebody from Adamawa about 8 hours to get to Abuja. But if you put this road, it will reduce that time. From Yobe, from Borno, it's the same thing. I was just talking to the former Senate President. I said, apart from air, how will you get to Abuja? He said you must pass through Jos. So how many of us can afford to be flying each time to Abuja? The best way of movement is by road. That is where you meet and greet people. That is where you will buy potatoes on the way. That is where you will buy yams on the way if you are passing through Benue. So for me, I think that while we are concentrating on this coastal road, I saw because the motion mentioned North Central without even specifying which part of North Central. I must say all parts of North Central. So I stand to support this bill by Senator Gwoza and the collapsing motion by distinguished Senator Dicket Plank so that the roads can go together. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, this is just, please, your mic. This is calling on the attention of the federal government to add these key infrastructure roads into the Renew Hope agenda as legacy projects of Mr. President. So I want to thank distinguished Senator Gwoza and also thank distinguished Senator Dicket Plank and of course thank the former governor and distinguished Senator Lalong because you have been able to put clear elucidation into the situation, and it's so clear. It doesn't need argument. It's just a function of calling on the federal government on the named infrastructure roads so that they can become major legacy projects for the administration. I don't see anything wrong with that. So I thank you for bringing this to the fore, and I'll go ahead to put the question. First, question 1. Commend Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for the giant developmental strides in the quest to make Nigeria the biggest economy in Nigeria. Those in support of prayer one say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer two, urge the federal government through the Federal Ministry of Works to further expand the Renewed Hope legacy road infrastructure projects of Mr. President. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer three, urge the Federal Ministry of Works to include the Calabar, Makodi, Jalingo, Meduguri Highway, and also to include the Akwanga, Jos, Gombe, Adamawa highways to complete the Renewed Hope agenda of Mr. President with a view to leaving behind legacy roads in the country. Those in support of these additional prayers say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. So I want to say that I will be very glad to glide on those roads when they are completed. I congratulate you for bringing the plight of your people to the fore. Senator Asukwa.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, urgent need to investigate the continued importation of hazardous petroleum products and dumping of substandard diesel into Nigeria. My name is Asukwa Ekpenyong, Senator representing Cross River South. The Senate notes with deep concern the continued importation of hazardous products, petroleum products, and dumping of substandard diesel into Nigeria. It observes that on the 16th of June 2024, it was credibly reported that 12 diesel cargoes conveying a total of 660 KT of diesel was exported by foreign refineries to offshore Lomé, Togo, for further distribution to West African markets, mainly Nigeria. Also note that the quality of the said diesel is below the Nigerian standard in terms of flash and sulfur levels. However, in spite of the substandard nature of the diesel, it has found its way into the Nigerian market as a truck on MT Carlos, which arrived Lomé on the 16th of June, which immediately did a ship-to-ship transfer to DVMT Matriarch Triumph, and then proceeded to discharge into Matriarch Jetty.
The Senator, please start again, because most of the floor is a bit rowdy. I don't think senators are actually getting what you are saying, because what you are saying touches also on life.
Yes, sir.
It touches on life.
Yes, sir.
And the possibility of Nigerians inhaling poisonous products under the guise of diesel. So start your motion again so that the senators can pay attention. And most senators do not have the motion in their hands.
Take the job of fantastic.
Senator, the minority leader, there is no order here. Senator Ashiru, there is no order. The Senate is a bit rowdy. Let us be sure that everybody has the motion so they can see what we are discussing.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Once again, my name is Asukwa Ekpenyong, Senator representing Cross River South.
Yes.
The motion before us is the urgent need to investigate the continued importation of hazardous petroleum products and dumping of substandard diesel into Nigeria. The Senate notes with deep concern the continued importation of hazardous petroleum products and dumping of substandard diesel into Nigeria. It observes that on the 16th of June 2024, it was reported that 12 diesel cargoes conveying a total of 660 KT of diesel was exported by foreign refineries to offshore Lomé, Togo, for further distribution to West African markets, mainly Nigeria. Also note that the quality of the said diesel is below the Nigerian standard in terms of flash and sulfur levels. In spite of the substandard nature of the diesel, it has found its way into the Nigerian market as a truck on MT Carlos, which arrived Lomé on the 16th of June, which immediately did a ship-to-ship transfer to DVMT Matriarch Triumph, and then proceeded to discharge into Matriarch Jetty in Warri on the 21st of June 2024. Thereafter, another ship-to-ship transfer was made to DVMT Matriarch Pride, which then proceeded to discharge into Obat Oil Terminal on the 22nd of June 2024. The Senate further notes that the stock of diesel in contention is priced below the fair market value which constitutes dumping on the World Trade Organization rules, which stipulates that countries are permitted to take measures to protect their local industries in the event of dumping. The World Trade Organization also recognizes the impact of dumping on domestic industries and therefore stipulates tariff regimes such as anti-dumping duties and import restriction measures to ensure that domestic producers are not unfairly disadvantaged. Aware that even though the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has recently revised the standards of diesel importation into Nigeria in line with the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, it is apparent that they are incapable of enforcing compliance with the standards. Also aware that NMDPR has persistently continued to issue import licenses for diesel and jet fuel, despite sufficient local production capacity. Therefore, the best option for protecting Nigerians and our local refineries against dumping may be to place a ban on the importation of diesel as long as our local refineries can meet the Nigerian demands. We are further aware that this proposed ban on importation of diesel will be beneficial to the Nigerian petroleum industry and indeed the entire nation. The Senate observes that the inability to inaugurate modular refineries as well as get existing refineries to be fully functional to discharge their function to meet local demands for clean petroleum products would make Nigeria a dump site for dirty fuel. Concerned that importation of substandard diesel has both human and mechanical consequences, as toxic emissions from the diesel contribute to respiratory illnesses and other health issues, as well as degrade engine life that would force consumers to deal with frequent vehicle and generator breakdowns with attendant higher maintenance costs. Also concerned that local refineries cannot compete favorably if there is no adequate protection and regulation against dumping, and this will undermine the growth and sustainability of the domestic refineries, thereby leading to job losses and economic downturn. Further concerned that the influx of substandard diesel can have long-term environmental consequences as low-quality fuel leads to higher levels of pollutants being released into the atmosphere, leading to adverse effects on our climate and degrading our local ecosystem. The Senate accordingly resolves to set up an ad hoc committee to A, examine the pre-shipment and pre-discharge standard test parameters adopted by the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Regulatory Authority with a view to uncovering loopholes, if any, exploited to get toxic cargoes into our country. B, determine the level of compliance of the NMPCL's direct sale and direct purchase arrangements in line with the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, including the extent of transparency and accountability in the scheme. C, beam the legislative searchlight on the activities of the Petroleum Equalization Fund, including payments made to transporters in the last 10 years. D, inquire from the NMPCL the status of the 22 depots built by the NMPC to eliminate road distribution of petroleum products. E, engage with stakeholders within the oil and gas industry with a view to identifying possible gaps in regulating and strengthening the surveillance and monitoring structures in place to enable Nigeria to detect violations of best practice standards in the importation of products before they enter into domestic supply chains. F, also engage with the NNPCL with a view to understanding the extent of its determination and timelines for the startup of government-funded oil refineries. And finally, G, investigate how institutions across the importation and distribution chain failed to conduct quality sampling, shipping products without auditing, port validations by the Nigerian Customs Services, Department of Petroleum Resources, National Maritime Authority, and Standard Organizations of Nigeria. I so move.
Distinguished Senator Agadaga.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Benson Sunday Agadaga is my name. I represent the good people of Bayelsa East Senatorial District in Bayelsa State. I rise here to second the motion ably moved by Senator Asikwo Ekpenyong on the need to investigate the importation of wrong, bad fuel, hazardous
petrol and bad diesel into the country. I still second Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Senator Adams Oshole.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I want to appreciate my friend and brother, distinguished Senator Ekpeyon, for this very, very important motion. Read it through paragraph by paragraph. There is absolutely nothing to add. We do have saboteurs. Around the country, people blame politicians for all sorts of things that are not working well. Yet, we have people who are just appointees of government, who sabotage the laudable objective of parliament. Mr. President, I watched in the news when you led a delegation to visit a Nigeria refinery that is capable of producing diesel of appropriate standard. The decision, therefore, by the management of that's paragraph 5, aware that NMDPRA has persistently continued to issue import licenses of diesel and jet despite sufficient local production capacity. Mr. President, this is sabotage. Real sabotage of the Nigerian nation. Endangering jobs, good paying jobs of Nigerians who are working in these refineries to produce this product. The much advertised benefit of local refining, which NNPC has used time and time again to pump all sorts of money into maintenance of Nigeria refineries. Now we have refineries that are working. And a Nigeria who believes in the future of our country at a time when the pressure on foreign exchange is so strong that the naira is plummeted every day. A Nigeria finds comfort in the words of this, in this particular paragraph, to continue to issue licenses for the importation of substandard, dangerous chemicals in the name of diesel. I agree absolutely that we need to have a strong, well-paneled ad hoc committee to carry out thorough investigation and to investigate the leadership of the institution that is responsible for issuing these licenses. Mr. President, until we begin to punish, dismiss, and prosecute people who are undermining our collective well-being, we continue to smile away. I do not believe that these are errors of the head. I believe the gentleman or gentlemen involved in this are doing it on purpose to collect rents for their pocket and undermine the economy of Nigeria. Your visit to Lagos was very well appreciated because the parliament must see what is going on in different parts of the country. So I support this motion and I plead with my colleague that in unison, we should condemn the idea of importing diesel, which many of us, we have to agree we are part of the middle or ruling class now. We all have diesels in our house. We are being poisoned by the product being imported by someone or some persons who want to enrich their pocket. So I think this is one motion that all of us should adopt unanimously and empower the committee and give them all the political backing they need to do the needful so that Nigeria will be better for it. Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to again thank you, Asuko, for bringing this to the fore. It is extremely important. It is not just for you. It is not even for those workers. It is for our health and as well as creating jobs and defending jobs of Nigerians. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for your submission. Senator Wadada, you've been raising your hand.
Mr. President.
Is that your seat?
I guess it is.
Why do they put you close to the eye? You'll be standing up, Father.
No, you ordered that they should move me there. Sergeant at Arms, that's for your consumption and action, please.
Because if you are inside there, you will not move out very easily. But where you are now, I doubt if I will see you wherever I want to look at you. So proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Senator Ahmed Wadada Aliyu Sarkin Yakin Kefi. I represent Nasarawa West Senatorial District. While I align and support this all-important motion moved by my brother, Senator Asuko, and the content of the motion is or are all-encompassing. But permit me to say, sir, just two things. The relevant authorities or agencies mentioned here must be taken on by the Senate to ensure that all the nitty-gritty as far as the allegations are concerned are taken care of to forestall future occurrences. Secondly, to buttress what Senator Adams Oshomole said, we have a refinery today that is a legacy to Nigeria. Dangote refinery is a legacy to Nigeria. And Dangote refinery needs all the support from every facet of our polity, so that the needed and required maximum value or values that is supposed to be brought to the table should and must be brought to the table. And if that is done and other modular refineries are encouraged, and also this brings to bear the quantum of funds that have been put into rejuvenation or rehabilitation of our local government-owned refineries. Port Harcourt refinery has been there, so much funds have been injected, the commissioning dates have been, goalposts have been shifted from date to date to date. Private refineries are not encouraged. Dangote refinery is now struggling for crude oil, for it to be able to be as productive as it should be. This motion addresses virtually all the issues that have got to do, or the menace, so to say, that have got to do with the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we must all give the needed support beyond just contributing to the motion, but actions should be taken, on this matter as required. I so second and contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think the motion must be all-encompassing. Like you mentioned, we've had a lot of dates, startup, commencement, this, that, on Port Harcourt refinery, Warri refinery, Kaduna refinery, and over $3 billion, if not $4 billion expended. And then the last date we had was December for them to commence commercial operations. And then it just kept shifting and shifting, and billions are going in, and Nigeria is complaining, the people are suffering, and at the same time, we've not been able to agree on minimum wage, and yet 3 refineries that are yet to work are governing billions and billions. We need to call them to account, and then the Senate must rise to the occasion to get the status. So I'm happy with this motion. It's all encompassing. We'll soon go into the prayers. But let me hear from one or two of our colleagues. The distinguished Lord Mayor, Senator Masha Sunday Masha Khartoum, the Lord Mayor of Leeds.
Thank you very much, Thank you, Mr. President, my colleagues. Sunday Marshal Khartoum, I represent the people of Kaduna South Senatorial District. I rise to second this
laid out motion. The motion has been adequately argued. Justification for the investigation also clearly stated. The prayers are well defined. And because it is an investigative motion, Mr. President, I don't want us to preempt the issues. As justifiable as it is, I will urge that all of us support this motion and leave the investigative panel to come out with the results. Then we can come back and apply appropriate sanctions as recommended by the committee. That's the advice I want to proffer, that because it is an investigative motion, that we minimize the amount of argument, because all of us seem to be in sync and supportive of the motion. That is my kind advice, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
In line with your advice, I'm sure Senator Ningi will not take more than 2 seconds.
Mr. President, my name is Senator Ningi, and I represent Bauchi Central. Mr. President, let me join you and others in commending Senator Asuko for a well-researched, eloquently delivered, brilliantly presented motion on this particular matter. It is important, Mr. President, to highlight the summary of this motion. And the summary of this motion precisely gives us the tragic history, the tragic history of Nigeria as a nation. As an oil-producing nation for 50 years or thereabout, this nation is still battling with the issue of auditing, the issue of sampling, and the issue of fault validation. In other climes across the world, these are given, but because we're a nation that has not shown any capacity, any seriousness, especially in this sector that we all depend on. And that's why we're having issues within the industry. Finally, Mr. President, if this is what the 10th Senate will achieve in its 4 years existence going forward, if this is the only thing that the 10th Senate will achieve, please, for God's sake, let's try to achieve it. Let's show Nigerians that is not business as usual. Let's understand the perception outside there. Let's do what you can do and do everything in the open to satisfy skeptics about the 10th Senate. It is important that we recognize the issues raised. And it is very imperative that once we can achieve the objectives of this motion, I am sure history will recall the 10th Senate as an achiever. It is important for those who will be in this ad hoc committee to understand Nigerians have a question mark about what we can do or we cannot do. But sufficiently, the Constitution has given us powers to be able to delve into issues like this and bring about positive change and positive transformation. I so move, and I think everybody should support this motion. It is not late in coming. It is imperative that we understand the dynamics as it is. It is important to make a difference, and it is important to show Nigerians that we meant what we said. Thank you very much.
Senator Olamileko.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleague, Adeola Solomon Olamileko, representing Ogun West Senatorial District in the Senate of Federal Republic. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, let me also join others in commending the mover of this motion. And Mr. President, let me start by saying that when we passed the Petroleum Industrial Act, the main objective of passing that bill into law was to achieve one major thing, and which is for us to unbundle the oil and gas sector. We did that successfully during the night Senate. We have an act in place that unbundled the oil and gas sector, with the hope and the belief that by unbundling this sector, the country will be better off than what we usually have in the past. And to that extent, we created a separate agencies under the upstream sector and the downstream sector. And also, we ensure that we have an NNPC that can compete favorably well with other oil and gas sector all over the world. But Mr. President, with this singular motion that is before us this afternoon, it's a clear indication that it seems what we hope to achieve by passing this act, this bill into law, we are not seeing it at all. Because in the body of the motion, it is clear that the only agency of the government that bring in this diesel or this petroleum product is only the NNPC PLC or Limited. And if that is the case, I wonder how the same agency of the government will import into the country adulterated diesel. So this is a very serious allegation that I strongly believe demands a very, very strong committee and investigation to look into it. Mr. President, if you look at line by line of this motion that is before us, it is clear that even quoting the date where each of these transactions takes place is enough for us to look into this sector. Not only this motion alone, as we have said while sitting, that there have been promises upon promises that our refinery will come on board at so period, at so time, and billions of dollars has been spent on this refinery. Mr. President, I want to say that we demand that we need a major reform. Head must roll in the Nigerian Petroleum Corporation and even other agencies of the government that are saddled with this responsibility. Because all these allegations is just one out of the numerous investigations we have to do in this sector. So I will be imploring that we should do an holistic investigation. Because by the time we start treating this motion at the committee level, there will be other issues that will come up. So we must mandate the committee that will be handling this to make sure, at least, because look at the challenges we have. There are more information that is known to us that we cannot even share here. NNPC, Nigeria upstream and downstream, needs to be investigated. And the investigation must be holistic. Nigeria must know the true position about these agencies of the government that have been saddled with the responsibility of running our oil and gas sector. Thank you, Mr. President. So submit.
The Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. I'm Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South. Mr. President, I stand up to support this motion. Our members, or our distinguished colleagues, have spoken adequately on it. But I want to commend the mover of the motion, first of all. This is displayed concern and capability because it is in that sector. One continues to wonder where the situation where our government built previously 4 refineries, all of them are down. To just maintain them, people have spoken so much about that. Secondly, Mr. President, what I just wanted to add to this very important motion, and even patriotic and urgent, is the fact that an individual in Nigeria was patriotic enough to build a refinery. And you have been there, I was not there. I was not there. Having said that, Mr. President, he complained that if he had known that he would go through what he has gone through, he wouldn't have started that patriotic and giant project. Yet, he said he's not the person that gives up. He clearly said that the IOCs are frustrating his efforts. Last week or so, fire caught part of the refinery. But fortunately, it has not affected the refinery so much. But coming back to my question.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. I rise to move pursuant to Order 8 sub 3 of our rules for extension of time to enable us to sit beyond 2 p.m. so that we can take care of more of the things we have on the other paper. I so move, Mr. President.
Emergency Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, Senator Victor Umede, Acting Minority Leader, I hereby rise to second the motion by the Majority Leader that we do extend our time beyond 2 p.m. to be able to consider the remaining items on the other paper. I so support.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that our time be extended to enable us to conclude the items on the other paper. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And by the way, we will have a short executive session immediately after this to conclude on urgent matters connected with issues of privilege with one of our female senators.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also hope that you will extend my time of contribution.
Extended.
Having said that, recently, the Dangote refinery started production of diesel. But he had to sell it out. He has to export it. Because he has to go through a process to supply, to make that supply, to make the diesel available in Nigeria. So part of the investigation should be why one of our refineries is producing, but the market in Nigeria either is blocked, frustrated, or whatever. He has to go and sell it outside.
So it's saturated with hazardous products from Russia. That's what the motion is all about.
You see, so they go and import adulterated diesel from Russia to Nigeria. Well, okay, foreign. You see, they mentioned. Eh?
Russian diesel.
So she is a Russian category. Okay, whatever. The Senate President is. So, Mr. President.
Also, Russia was not mentioned in the motion. So he just said foreign diesel.
Oh, foreign diesel.
Foreign diesel.
I was just copying from the President. Okay, foreign. Okay. So, Mr. President, I want to suggest the investigation as suggested by our colleagues should be holistic, very holistic. And that is also to involve why somebody is producing diesel in the country and he had to go out to look for foreign market to sell the product. On the other hand,
polluted or toxic diesel is being imported into the same Nigeria? These are questions that the committee should actually find out, investigate, and as my chairman suggested, those involved should actually be brought to book so that this kind of thing that is going in and killing our country should not repeat itself. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Siri.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I have gone through this motion, and paragraph 3 of this motion showed that the mover of this motion has given us all the information, activity to activity, date by date. The implication of this motion, especially in paragraph 3, is that it will definitely assist in real time the ad hoc committee that will be constituted. Mr. President, distinguished Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I just want to have a personal I just want to beg you personally that everything that the constituted ad hoc committee will require that will enable us get to the root of this unwholesome activity, that you must give all the necessary support to it, sir. This is an infraction. This is criminal. This is not in the interest of this country. And I beg you, and I beg you, and I beg you, we must see to the end of this infraction and this unwholesome activity, so that it will be a deterrent and it will teach others a major lesson. And I want to plead with you. Thank you, and thank you very much, sir.
Dismissed Senator Siri. What they are saying in essence is that the hardcore committee must sit day to day and bring the report back to us before we go on the long break. Because we can't just set up a committee that will sit ad infinitum. This is too important to the economy of the country. It's important to the health of the citizens of this country, and it's also important to job retention in the country and job creation. So we must look at these things. And like somebody said, even if this August Assembly has to make recommendation that some heads should rule within the petroleum industry, so be it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I begin by thanking you, Mr. President, for the privilege to also be able to take part in this very patriotic debate. And my contribution will be short, Mr. President. First, it is important that we make this clear to members of the Nigerian public that the concern of the Senate in this regard, it's primarily one about our economy, because we feel that in a situation where it looks like an economy is being held by the jugular, as elected representatives of the Nigerian people, we must stand up to be able to do the needful. Primarily as well, this is also about issues that border on public health. When hazardous petroleum products are imported into a country, diesel, jet fuel, and all that. It has three significant implications. One, negative impact on public health, which by extension leads to a reduction in the lifespan of the citizens of the country whose health are negatively impacted on, especially their respiratory system. Number two, it also has significant impact on the environment. Number three, Mr. President, it's also about protection of properties. People struggle to save money to buy their cars. Some even buy these cars with bank loan. Companies struggle to buy official cars. Institutions, including government institutions, buy vehicles for official use. When, less of a quality petroleum product is used, it leads to an early, destruction of the engines of these vehicles, including also its negative impact on our industrial sector. Diesel is used to run industrial machines. So when you bring in, substandard petrol or diesel, what you're also saying is that you are killing, those industrial machines, you are killing the industrial sector. So all of these are issues of significance that make it essential for us as a Senate to holistically look into these issues. Finally, Mr. President, if we have been told as a nation that our refineries were under repair, and over $4 billion had been invested in this by government at different times, and we have been given different dates when these refineries will be up and running, and none of those dates had worked. I think it is important for us as elected representatives of the people to be able to bring NNPC and their contractors to ask the question, what is going on? When will these refineries be ready? And it's not just about completion of refineries, because that's a technical term, but come and tell the Nigerian people through us about the start-up dates for these refineries. These are issues, Mr. President, that we need to take into serious consideration. So I am totally in support of this motion, and I want to thank again distinguished Senator Asuku Ekpeyon for bringing the motion, and to emphasize that at the end of the day, as a nation, we must appreciate the fact that we are not safe until we are able to locally refine our crude. For as long as we continue to rely on importation, it will be difficult for even the regulatory framework, based on how it is set up, to be able to determine the quality of petroleum products that are imported. It is important that we get our local refineries to work. It's also essential that whichever local refinery that we have now must be saved from collapse and frustration. I thank you, Mr. President.
Unless there is any person opposed to this motion, any opposition to this motion, so we go into the prayers. Are you opposed to it, Senator? No, the contributions are inside the paper. Huh? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity. My name is Mohammed Sani Musa, Niger East Senatorial District. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the issue of oil and gas in this country is something that we should not just take as business as usual. There are quite a lot of issues in this industry. And oil today has been the where of our economy. Virtually every sector, when you looked at it, what happens in that industry has a lot of implication on the others. Today, you can see the spite of cancer in this country is to do with the pollution we have in this country. The pollution is too high. Notwithstanding that, if we looked at the PIA itself, the Petroleum Industry Act itself, Mr. President, there is need for the National Assembly to take and have another look at that act. The powers arrogated to somebody is enormous, that a lot of things are not going right. If we have unbundled NNPC, then some people should be held responsible for not doing what they're supposed to do. But we have unbundled NNPC, but also at the same time tie their hands and they cannot do anything. We have somebody that has been very courageous, just as the deputy leader said. Dangote established a refinery, and which is almost the biggest refinery today in the world. Nobody is encouraging him. Nothing is being done to encourage him. He has to go to the United States to buy crude oil. Our Nigerian crude oil is one of the best when it is refined. We have so many things in it. He will pay for this crude oil. He will not even get it as at when he wanted it. So what are we doing to ourselves? And we keep importing something that will kill us for the sake that few people want to make more money. So, Mr. President, my view is that it's not only to checkmate what is happening as by the importation of oil in this country, fuel in this country, but we should look at the PIA itself. We are past the PIA. Can we now tell Nigerians that, or can NNPC tell us that we have had more than $300 million investment in this country from the time that we have enacted that law to now? When a country like Gabon, Angola are having investments coming in, even Ghana here, with over $12 billion, and nothing is coming to Nigeria. I think there is need for us to look at the PIA, make the necessary review if we want our oil and gas industry to blossom. Thank you, Mr. President.
That last contribution aligns with my thoughts. If the intention of unbundling the NNPC was to bring in more investment, then we have failed. I think what has happened is that even the names now are confusing. You call it NMPVRA, the Nigerian public is totally confused. And what? So what Senator Musa said is that even our neighboring country of Ghana gets over $10 billion to $12 billion worth of investment. But since we unbundled the names, we ended up allocating more powers to certain individuals. But we also failed to unbundle the operators. So they said business goes. The business as usual. 3 refineries, over $4 billion sunk into it, and different dates of commitment: September 2023, December 2023, June 2024, July. Now they are saying the 3 of them will work simultaneously. July beginning, July ending, August, everything will work smoothly. We have 5 modern refineries going on. We have the one from Dangote, and then we are issuing licenses every day. As we open newspapers, we see licenses to bring in one. diesel, bring it fuel, bring it this, bring it that. We're not even encouraging local production. America and many other countries do everything to protect their local production in order to save jobs. So this August Assembly must rise to the occasion. And I want to thank the mover of this motion and to agree with Senator Olamilekan that we may have to go into different aspects of this motion, not just doing this investigation alone, but we may have to go into even the issues of the act, the PIA. Because we must look back at the PIA. We have a right as a parliament. Don't we have the right? We have the right to look back and see whether the thing is working for us or not. The prayers. I thank all my colleagues and including those who have not yet contributed because of time. I thank you, and I know that you have the opportunity when the annual committee will be meeting to make your contributions. And please, I'll urge the annual committee to try to involve members of the public whenever they are sitting, and if they be, take their sitting slide so that Nigerians will know that this is not about wishing, but it's about improving the economy of this country and saving the jobs of Nigerians. Prayer 1. Examine the pre-shipment and pre-discharge standard parameters adopted by the Nigerian midstream and downstream regulatory authority with a view to uncovering loopholes, if any, exploited to get toxic cargoes into the Nigerian market. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2. With the ad hoc committee, determine the level of compliance of the NNPCL's direct sale and direct purchase (DP) arrangements in line with the provisions of the Petroleum Industry Act, including the extent of transparency and accountability in the scheme. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. With the ad hoc committee, beam searchlight, legislative searchlight on the activities of the Petroleum Equalization Fund, including payments made to transporters in the last 10 years. Those who support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Inquire with the ad hoc committee from the NNPCL the state, the status of the 22 depots built by the NNPC in those days to pump petroleum products in order to eliminate road distribution of products across the country. What happened to those 22 depots? Those in support of prayer 4 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, you can have it as additional prayer. Senator, but if it's something urgent, say so. The Senate President, thank you, Ambinos Yaro. Actually, there's only one prayer in this motion, and all these other items are what the terms of reference of the ad hoc committee. So there's just one prayer. We set up the ad hoc committee. Thank you. Thank you. So, any second. The same Senator Sharaf. Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the
motion or the prayer moved by Senator Zaro to the extent that they are doing one prayer that just set up the committee and putting them. These prayers are stamps of reference. I do second, Mr. President. Thank you.
The single Senator Peter Zaro has said that there is only one prayer in this motion: to set up another committee and to use all the other prayers enshrined herein as reference points, terms of reference. In other words, only one prayer. Set up the ad hoc committee, and everything embedded here will be used as terms of reference. Those in support of this major amendment and seconded by Senator Shirafati say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Accordingly,
additional prayer. It's not, excellent. It's not part of the term of reference.
It's close. It's close. The only prayer here is to set up the ad hoc committee, and then these ones will be used as terms of reference.
Is to expand the term of reference.
Okay. You can approach the committee. Approach the ad hoc committee. In fact, in the course of the investigation, more things will come up. So please, those in support that all other additional prayers should go to the committee, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. See, that is why democracy is important. I mean, they saved me the problem of going through the prayers one after the other. So I must thank when you stood up, I didn't know you were coming with a bombshell. So thank you so much. So let me say that because of the importance of this committee, not everybody can be there. I looked and I tried to see those who have a lot of reference to the petroleum industry. So I believe strongly that we should give this committee to the Senate leader to lead and to report back to us within the next 14 days at most. And you have to see, should it be more than that? We want it. Okay, so it seems that the chief whip says we should give them at least 3 weeks in order to do a very thorough job. Is it the view of the Senate that the annual committee should have 3 weeks to undertake its job? Those in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Okay, so the Distinguished Senator Michael Bamidele, the chairman, the mover of the motion, the Distinguished Senator Asuko, he will be there. He may decide to make you secretary or otherwise. The Distinguished Senator Abdullahi Yahya, our former leader, will be member. The legal icon, the Distinguished Senator Mohammed Tahir Mokulu, will also be there. The Distinguished Senator Olamilekon, Solomon Olamilekon, will be there because this has a lot to do with the revenue of the Federation, which will appropriate. The Distinguished Senator D.K. Plank will be there. The Distinguished Senator Ipalego Banigo will be there. We don't have too many women, so we must have a woman there. And they are very responsible women. So you have to be there to represent the 10th Senate. The Civil Senator Kabir Mustafa, a very serious-minded person, you have to be there. The Civil Senator Adam Oshomole, you have to be there. Not as a former Labour leader, but as a distinguished patriot who loves the country and who knows that yesterday what needs to be done was done well. So we would like to have your input in the committee. The Distinguished Senator, the chairman of the Petroleum downstream will be a member. The chairman of the Petroleum upstream will also be a member. The Distinguished Senator Adejibumbo Abiru will also be a member. The sitting senator is Unaso Osita. Is Unaso will be a member. The sitting senator Sahabi Yao, he'll be a member, and of course the sitting senator Negi, he will have to be a member of this committee. So it's almost like a 15-man committee to unravel these issues.
Point of order. My order is on privilege. By virtue of the fact that I'm privileged to be chairman of the account committee of the Senate, I should be a member of this committee. Yes.
Your point of order is noted, and the chairman of the committee is directed to call as many senators as possible if, in your opinion and the opinion of the committee, they will assist in unraveling the situations we are going to. Yes. So, the Senate.
Point of order, Mr. President. Order 42, personal explanation.
The sitting senator is Jibril. Yes, sir. Are you going? Yes, sir. Your voice sounded like Senator Warada, so.
It's my real voice, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. President, if I may read, by the indulgence of the Senate, I should go ahead. Yes, is that very sensitive. Mr. President, order 42, order. Okay, Mr. President, may I proceed to read, because it is personal explanation, and I've already discussed with you the content. Now, President, please. Okay. Order 42, request for extension of time to complete the ad hoc committee report on the Ways and Means and Anchor Borrower program. Recall that the Senate
please, the only issue left now is the issue of privilege. So, on the other, on the personal explanation, you can actually put it tomorrow during our session.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, thank you.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, I rise actually to move that the Senate at this time do go into a closed-door session to enable us deal with a very vital matter of privilege concerning us as distinguished senators. As soon as Mr. President.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I second the motion that the Senate goes into a closed session to discuss matters of national importance.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded. Those in support of the motion that we go into a closed session to discuss matters of urgent national importance, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.